Good day and welcome all. Today, it's time to talk about Minnesota, the state of Minnesota. Is the state in play for Trump? Is it going red? Could he potentially pull off the win? I do think it's very possible that the state could go for Trump at this point. I'm not saying it's going to. It's not guaranteed. The state hasn't gone for a Republican since 1972 against Richard Nixon. So let's get into this. Just the other day, we had a 2024 general election Emerson the Hill poll that came out. It polled a bunch of states, not just Minnesota. We'll kind of talk about those other states in a second. But the most important thing that came out of it is a poll that shows Trump leading by 1 point in the state of Minnesota. He's leading in a poll. Now, again, polls usually have seemed to underestimate Trump in the past. Does that mean that's the case right now? Maybe, maybe not. However, Trump is still leading in this poll in a five-way race. I'll say it is in a five-way race. If we look at the same polling averages and the same poll from from Emerson and the Hill, it is a tie when it's just the heads-up 1v1 race. However, that's still a tie in a state that in 2020 went for Joe Biden by over 7 points. And in 2016, Trump won it by 1.5. So maybe we're just seeing the state starting to potentially revert a little closer to its 2016 margins. Maybe it'll get close again. Trump probably won't win it, but he could. He very well could. Again, looking at these polls, we've seen a few polls that show it a little close. This one shows it at 6 points. Don't know much about this pollster. Minnesota Post +3, and then Hill Emerson tie. So all of the polls, first of all, no one's at 50%. Biden doesn't hit 50% even in the +6 poll. He's only at 47. So again, there's a lot of undecided people still in this election. And another thing to, again, consider with this Hill Emerson poll, this is post-verdict. So clearly what we're seeing is people don't care. Even in the state of Minnesota, they don't care about the trial. They don't care about the witch hunt on Trump. But again, Trump's leading by +1 in the five-way race. And it looks very likely that RFK Jr. will hopefully be able to get on the state in Minnesota. And I say that not because I support him, but because he takes votes away from Biden. Everything we've seen, all of the information, the polls, everything we have seen has shown that extra third-party candidates do not draw almost any voters from Trump. RFK Jr. is just not the guy who's going to be pulling votes from someone like Trump. He doesn't align with Trump voters' values. So to say that RFK Jr. can, being a radical, pro-choice, left-wing Democrat who just happens to be against vaccine mandates, that's not going to draw a typical conservative Trump voter. It's not going to draw really the typical Trump voter at all. And even then, most independents aren't going to go for almost the same or maybe further left on some issues than Biden, when clearly the most important issues to people is the economy, it's the border, and it's national security, it's overseas issues. Most people trust that Trump will handle that better, and they're not going to go ahead and vote for RFK and leave the chance of Biden potentially getting voted in. However, a lot of Biden voters who are a little tired of Biden, they might go some to Trump, some might go to RFK Jr. And then there's also Stein and West, who are realistically, yeah, they're probably not going to get more than 1% anywhere. It's it's a good little 1% here and there to draw from Biden, because people who are going to vote for Stein or West definitely were never going to vote for Trump. So I'm fine with them being on the ballot. If they take more from Biden, that just makes the election that much easier and that much more in grasp for Trump. But again, Trump is potentially making a play. He's opening some new field offices, as I saw in the state. He's opening a few in Virginia as well, I believe, if I understand correctly. That state's also gotten a lot closer. But the state of Minnesota does seem to be shifting, at least in polling data and some information we've seen. And maybe that's just Trump finally improving a bit more in the margins in these white, rural, working class areas that for some reason don't vote as Republican as it would in most other places. For all we know, like realistically, based on the demographics of the state, it should be a Republican state. It just isn't. There's a lot of these really establishmentarian type liberals, and then a lot of these people who just love voting third party in this state. And most of the time that leads to Democrats and left wing policy. But at the same time, if there's enough left wingers splitting votes, that's going to make it a lot easier for a Republican to win the state. And as I've said again, you can see right here the 5-way race. Trump is up 1 point when you add these third party candidates. And I think that's probably Trump's only shot at winning it. I don't think he wins it if it's a head to head race. He could get it close, probably closer to the 2016 margin. But if it is the 5-way race, and I really hope it is, I think Trump can pull off a victory in the state, and that's just going to add to his overall success. And even if he doesn't win the race, there's no reason that we shouldn't be considering Minnesota a swing state at this point. All of the swing states, Trump's leading in. So why are we not adding other states that Trump is making close? He's making a good play for the state of Minnesota. We have Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, and even North Carolina. All of them are considered swing states, and Trump's leading all of them by almost 5 points or more. Nevada, he's leading by 5.7. We're calling those swing states, but we're not looking into Minnesota or Virginia at this point. Trump has expanded the electorate quite a bit. Does that mean he's going to win Virginia and Minnesota? No. Does that mean he's guaranteed to win all these states? No. But if he wins a state like Minnesota, or at least gets it close, there's no chance a state like Wisconsin or Michigan are not going to go for Trump. 0.3, 0.2. Trump will win those states easily if Minnesota is as close as we're seeing in these polling numbers. And that's an important thing. That's why this is important. Not that I think Trump needs to be putting all of his effort, all of his money into the state of Minnesota, because at the end of the day, he doesn't need it to win. There's not really many scenarios where he would need it to win. However, it is a good sign on things to come for him if they're doing that well there, and it could be a good way to expand the electorate and maybe help some down ballot races, which is important if we want to effectively govern when Trump wins in November. Now, the overall impact, like I said, these are all of the swing states, I'd say, at this point, that either I would classify as such or others would. But, again, based on that polling, I just don't see Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, or, my bad, not Virginia, North Carolina as swing states. So that brings us to 268. Trump literally needs one of any of these states. We even saw polling in Maine at large, which could be seen as a potential swing state, that Trump had it a lot closer. But again, we take all of these numbers into account. We have Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Trump's leading by 2.3 in this state. So he's going to win that, and he wins the election. These are just icing on the cake. It's just nice. And again, Minnesota, if it's that close, if he wins it, he's up at 322. And if somehow he wins Virginia as well, which, if Minnesota's that close, maybe Virginia's polling isn't that far off either, Trump could pull that off. Maine at large, probably throw it in there at that point. He wins the election 337. That's how big it is if Minnesota goes red. It's a massive red wave for Trump. He wins the election in a landslide. Biden would be decimated, and it would be the first time the state of Minnesota has gone for a Republican since 1972, Richard Nixon. That is insane, and that's what's on the line. So, hopefully, Trump does win the election by a greater margin than I already have predicted. Again, I don't think he wins Minnesota as of now. I think he gets it a lot closer, but 5-way race could make it possible. Anyways, I hope you guys liked that video. If you think he's going to be able to pull off Minnesota, let me know in the comments down below, and subscribe. Share the video with everyone you know. Help it get out there. It really helps a lot, and it's greatly appreciated. Until next time.